Hi, everybody. It's Christina Marie Weber, and I run a company called Christian Biz Owners on Fire, and we help faith based and spiritual business owners who want a more fulfilling and prosperous business or ministry while putting God, their purpose, and their relationship first on a daily basis. So, those of you that have been following me and my channel, you know about our little process, and that is that I take a question once a month from a client, prospect, someone following me, or something I observe. It's kind of common to many entrepreneurs that I would work with. And I create an educational video around it. So today, the question we're going to look at is how to stay focused in your business, and then I put the little caveat, and still have a fun life. And the reason why I say that last part is there are individuals who are extremely focused, but they're very one dimensional. I mean, they do hit their targets their whole life, their whole consumed with that particular thing. That's really not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, because I think they don't really have problems focusing, they're totally dialed in. I'm talking about the people who want to have Renaissance people. Like, they want to have a full life, they want to be excellent in what they do, but they want to have a holistic, total success, not just hitting one area really well. And so focus is a little more challenging with that environment. So that's really how I came up with this. So there was a part of my little routine is that once a day when I'm getting ready, I listen to a motivational podcast, and Jim Rohn's a favorite. I've been recently listening to Napoleon Hill. I'm a big fan of Think and Grow Rich. But I think this particular story came from a podcast I listened to from Brian Tracy. And he told a story about how Bill Gates and William Buffett were in a restaurant, and someone came up to them and just said, "What is the number one key to success?" And both of them said at the same time, "Focus." And so that's why, I mean, I would agree with that. The other element of why I kind of came up with this topic is, when I work with people, particularly people, I work with people all over the spectrum of their business development, same client, many different stages, but particularly the ones where everything isn't a smooth, dialed in system yet. Every time, if you look at all the issues they bring up, the bottom line is it gets down to a focus problem. Whether it's distraction from family, schedule, time management, it usually boils down to difficulty focus. So we're going to talk about how to stay focused in your business, and I'm going to give you 4 steps on how to do that. So the first step is you need to know what you're focusing on. Know your business vision in all 6 areas. And again, I'm referring back to the holistic person that wants to be focused, not the hyper just focus on one area person. So I look at 6 life areas. These are just the categories that really encapsulate every bucket: health, wealth, personal fulfillment, career, spirituality, and relationships. So if you don't know where you want to go in your big picture, and you don't know where you want to go in those 6 buckets, how can you focus? You don't know what you're focusing on. So what's important here is, and the complexity of trying to be more balanced when you're focusing, is you really do need to take time to flesh out with those 6 areas in your big area any conflicting priorities, because they're all interrelated. You can't, if you have 2 goals or 2 focus areas in any of those subcategories that are in conflict with each other, you're setting yourself up to fail from the beginning on focus. In fact, usually that is a focus problem, because internally you have ambiguity about that, because you really didn't take the time to make sure all of those areas are leading to the same place. If you don't have a clear target, often from the beginning, that is your problem with focus. What are you going to focus on? I mean, how do you know what to focus on? So step 2 is define your slight edge habits in each of these goal areas. So once you do have streamlined, okay, this is really the target in all of these areas, and this is where I want to end up. And they work together, they make sense, they're integrated. Now I need to know, when I say slide edge habits, I'm referring to the book The Slide Edge, Taming Simple Discipline into Massive Success and Happiness by Jeff Olson. I love it. He talks about the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. Their behaviors externally look very similar on the outside. What happens is people who are unsuccessful, once they achieve different levels of success, they stop doing the things that got them there. And successful people, once they achieve certain levels of success, they continue doing those things, and it's a discipline. So he calls that the slide edge. But over time, that person who quits doing the things when they hit some success milestones, they have more of a roller coaster type of experience in hitting their goals. Whereas the slide edge person, it's more slow and steady going up. And not that you don't go down and up, but it's consistently headed in an angle where they want to go. Now, the reason why this is important with focus and what he talks about, we're really talking about habits here. Habits can be an excellent way to be able to become more focused, because the whole point of a habit is that you want to make it kind of on autopilot. You don't even have to think about it. In fact, you feel weird when you don't do that habit, good or bad. So if you've taken your 6 goal areas and now you've brought them down into clear targets, what Jeff Olson encourages is, what is the one thing, the one slide edge habit in each of those areas that will get you achieve that area. And it seems really small, but they really do make a difference. So I'll give you a couple of examples of some of mine. Like I have, it's really more of a hobby, but it is still professional, is I kind of enjoy style. I'm not a professional stylist. I just enjoy kind of myself as a white canvas, and using style with that. So it's an education process. So my slide edge habit for that particular area would be to take a photograph of my outfit every day. And that was advised to me to do that because it helps you see, like, you think something looks good, and then when you actually see it in a photograph, you can kind of say, well, actually, this part didn't work, or that didn't work, or this one really worked and I didn't realize it did. So that's one habit. Another slide edge habit example that I have a goal of taking in the middle of the day, take like a 20-minute break when I read. I love to read, but if I wait until the nighttime, I'm out. So I do it in the middle of the day, and then, but at night, I kind of also have a little routine where I unwind, and I can read if I want to, but those are my 2 goals. So 20 minutes twice a day, I'm opening myself up to read or do something else in the evening that's relaxing for 20 minutes. The reason why that's important is I identified that when I did just doing that in a day, even if it's a really busy day, I feel like I'm not drained. I feel like there was energy coming in. It gives me perspective. It's something that's very pleasurable for me, not fattening, immoral, and unethical. And I really enjoy it. I look forward to it. And then no matter what else happened in the day, I feel like I didn't throw myself under the bus. And so what it does is, by the end of the week, if I have done that consistently, and it doesn't take that much of my time to do it, I feel more triumphant at the end of the week, rather than when I don't do that, I feel like I've been hit by a bus. So obviously it takes time to kind of figure out these key elements, but so the second step is, once you have your target and then you created those into slide edge habits, then it's easy to focus because you've got 6 habits that you want to make sure you get in that day. So that's part of your focus. So when you're doing those habits, you make sure you've arranged your schedule so you can do those habits. And when you're doing those habits, you be in the present moment with those habits. So that's your second step. The third step to having more focus in your business is understand and remove obstacles. And I'm going to list three, but there are many more than this. But one is interruptions is huge. Each of these could be its own video. The second one is difficulty saying no. And the third one is, I'm going to add, season of life. Part of different seasons of life have more interruptions than others. If you have responsibility to a family, to children, if you're married, you have obligations that sometimes can come up at times when you're trying to do something else. And so that varies. If you have aging parents that might need more of your attention here and there, and sometimes unplanned, that can take your focus in another direction. So we want to understand what these are, and then be aware of that in our planning on how to be more focused. So we've got the habits, we've got the targets, and now we're recognizing what things take us off the trail, and we want to identify those and gradually remove them. There are some kinds of interruptions you can remove with different kinds of boundaries or structure that you can put into place. Even with the season of life thing. In fact, I had a gal that she was a LinkedIn coach, and her kids, she was real clear about, I'm working during these times. I'm available during these. If it's an emergency, yes, come on. But if it's not, you can schedule time on my calendar like anyone else. So she would have her kids, she would train her kids to bring up different things that aren't emergencies at times when she is present for them, or even to the degree of, hey, you can book appointment on my calendar as well. I mean, that's being facetious. She actually did that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but she set some boundaries on, look, if it's an emergency, of course, interrupt me, but if it's something that could wait, here's when I'm available. And you kind of stack all of those tasks together. So that would be an example of a way within a season of life that you could start removing, or at least reducing, the numbers of obstacles to you being focused. And I can't remember the stat, but they say every time you get interrupted in what you're doing, it can take you about 15 minutes to get back on track. So if you have a lot of interruptions or different things that come up, it significantly reduces your productivity. And then when you come back to it, sometimes you can't remember where you were, you're redoing stuff. It's very hard to get focused when you're doing that. So that ties into step 4. So step 4, so let's just review the steps. The first is to make sure you're clear on your holistic vision and those targets. Number 2 is you've got those slide edge goals that you're doing. And number 3 is you're identifying and removing obstacles. And number 4, the realistic goals aligned with your goals and life routine. So this is easier said than done, okay? So of course there are best practices on how to do different things in different industries and etc. But actually, in reality, it's not always easy to apply it 100%. For example, I've heard of people that have had corporate corporate types of careers, or maybe they're still in a corporate career and they're doing a business on the side. So they have limited time, or they have a full-time job, they have limited time on the side. So really what you want to do there, adapting it, you got to kind of net out what's the most critical parts in my business. I only have 2 hours an evening, 5 days a week to do this, 10 hours a week on top of my job. What do I need to do? And, whether it's taking care of your customers, attending to sales and marketing, delivering on whatever it is, you got to be really disciplined in that kind of a structure to be able to keep focused the way you need to have it in the correct areas. It could be, like for me, I went from being working part-time as a therapist while pretty much being a stay-home mom to working full-time in a different business that I was developing and being a single parent. So my structure of how I could apply things was way different in those two scenarios. the things I could put my attention on were way different in those two. And if you don't accept that, which I kind of didn't, if you don't accept that and make those adjustments, you're not hitting the marks. You're not hitting the marks you need to have. And then you start to feel pretty anxious, because when you're not hitting different marks, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, then you start having the fires that you're having to put out, because I didn't do this thing for my kid, or I didn't turn this form in, or I didn't return that call, or whatever. And so that is really important to, it's great. We can have all these success formulas and different things, but maybe those individuals don't have your life circumstances, and so you've got to adapt that. In fact, there's a gal, I can't remember her full name now, but she's a mompreneur, has children, but she had said when she was learning about how to be an entrepreneur as a parent, as a mom, she was able to realize the things that she was learning, she had to filter them through and then adapt them to her mom life. Now, I didn't do that very well. I mean, I heard the things, and I tried to do those things in a mom life, and just led to frustration. And so I really admire that woman that she was able to do that. But that's what we're talking about on step 4. If you create a system that is riddled with conflicting priorities, unrealistic expectations of yourself, like there's no way you can get that done in that amount of time. I mean, talk about a way to ruin your focus. Is like you're trying to say, I'm going to get this particular task done in an hour, and there's no way you've ever done it in an hour. So then now you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to work twice as hard to get twice as much done in that's realistic. And then if you have an interruption, they're really off focus. So just being realistic and being in flow when you're working, rather than working under the clock or in a demanding pace, can help with your focus. Bottom line, if your schedule doesn't work on paper, it's not going to work in real life. And if your schedule doesn't work, how on earth can you be focused on what you're doing? Because a lot of times people spend as much time discerning, okay, I got 2 tasks here, they're both really important because they haven't planned well, or they were unrealistic in their scheduling. Other things took longer, and now they've got the 2 tasks and 1 hour to do them, and they both take 1 hour. A lot of times you end up spending as much time trying to figure out which thing to do, or worry about the one that's not being done, that you're not focused at all on either task. Okay, so this is why we want to really go about this in a strategic way. There's a way. A lot of times you're setting yourself up to be focused or to not be focused by the things that I've talked to you about. So to conclude, if you can't focus at work, you won't implement your plans effectively. If you fail to implement in business, it actually shows up in multiple problems, but one of the most painful is poor cash flow. If you have poor cash flow long enough, you'll go out of business. So I'm not trying to be a doomsayer here, but this is reality, and it all starts with vision. And this is what I help people do. I have a service called a Manifesting Your Vision session, where there's a pre-consultation survey involved. It's optional. One's more spiritual language, one's overtly Christian language. I'm saying the same thing. And what we do is I really help you drill down what is your holistic vision, and really provide you assistance understanding what's getting in the way, and provide suggestions to get there quicker, faster, better. If you're ready to stop being in the fog and really get focused and start implementing your plans more effectively, I would really invite you to do that session. You can book a calendar appointment on my calendar at talkwithchristina.com. That's talkwithchristina.com. I'd love to help you get better focus. Take care.